Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute since I've done a tag video, and I was, doing the weekly catching up on stuff, and one popped up that seemed really interesting, and it actually is. It's the Slow Reader book tag, and it's by Michaela May, so that's what this video will be about. So strap yourself in if you've got straps going on there, I don't know. And let's get into it. Question 1 is, what is your Goodreads goal for the year? So this year, my Goodreads goal is 150 books. For the last few years, I've read about 100 books, and last year I read 146, so I passed the goal that I had for 2020. And I think I can make it. I think I can do 150. I'm a few books behind, but I'm slowly catching up. I'm very excited about this. Question 2, how many books do you read a month on average? So I think you can go into Goodreads and look that up. But that's so hit or miss for me. There are some months that I read more, there are some months that I read less. And luckily I haven't gone a month without reading, because at times I do feel kind of bad if I don't read at the end of the night, or at least a few times during the week. But I would say on average I'm reading at the minimum 3 books a month, at the most 5. And then of course if I managed to do 10 books a month, 11, that's happened a few, last year a few times, but I would say on average it's between 3 and 5 books a month. Question 3, how many days does it typically take you to read a book? I would say, depending on the length, obviously, I would say it takes me about a week to read a book. It can be longer. I've taken longer before, sometimes it's taken me a month to read a book, honestly. But I would say on average, maybe at most maybe 2 weeks. I don't know, that's hard, because I'm thinking of books that have taken me a long time, but they were really long books, or I just wasn't totally interested in them, and I'm not one to always DNF. So probably a week and a half to 2 weeks on average, whatever. Question 4, are you always reading, or do you take books in between? I definitely take breaks. A lot of the time I'm reading several books at once. Right now I'm reading the second book in the Anita Blake series again, and I'm also reading You Had Me at Hola. I am kind of reading Hex. I need to pick up something else. I'm also listening to another book. I think it's called The Good Luck Girls on my Hoopla app. So if I get more interested in one book over the other, sometimes I will just not read anything else. I have to finish that book first before I can move on. So for example, last month, I got really into These Violent Delights while I was also reading Jade City. So I ended up just kind of focusing all my attention on These Violent Delights, and then it took me a little bit longer to read Jade City. So it's a combination of both. A lot of the time when I finish a book, I'll pick another one up. Not maybe immediately after, but then at the same time, if I'm reading more than one, it's almost like I never stopped and gave myself a break. So that's a question that's a little funky for me, but yeah, it's a combination of both. Question 5, what book took you particularly long to read? So most recently, I probably would say Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. That took me a really long time to get through. I can't really explain why. Well, no, I can. I don't know why I said that. The setting is school. The whole point of the book is basically these girls, whether they're orphans or they're the daughters of nobility, get sent to a nunnery. I don't know if that's what it was really called. But then they can go into different classes, like your Gray Sister, Red Sister, Holy Sister, blah, blah, blah. But we meet these girls and they're very young. So the combination of being in school and being super young doesn't always keep my attention. So that one took me a really long time to read. The second book I really liked, so it was much faster. And then I thought I would have the same results with the third book that I had with the second one, and then it kind of fell flat for me. So that series I haven't made it through. And then before that, a book that took me a long time to read, to finish, I'm not sure. I think it might have been Bloody Rose. That probably took me really not even that long. I would say like both of these books, it took me about a month and some change to read them. But Bloody Rose, it just didn't have my attention, so it took me a bit longer to read that book as well. Question 6, do big books intimidate you because you know you'll be spending a lot of time with them? Kind of, yeah. Honestly, one of my favorite genres is fantasy, but adult fantasy books are freaking huge, okay? Like, part of the Pop Sugar reading challenges, read the longest book on your TBR. At first, I thought it was Priory Over the Orange Tree, and that's like a little under 1,000 pages. And I was like, hey, man, this is gonna be hard. Try to listen to it on audiobook, I just couldn't get into it. Then I realized that's actually not the longest book on my TBR. It was the final book in the Lightbringer series. That one was so long. That series in general is just so much stuff that I have realized that I have quite a few adult fantasy books, not necessarily in this room, but in my living room, that I really want to get to. And I stupidly bought all the books in the series. I do that sometimes. And I don't know if I don't know when I'm going to get to them because I am kind of intimidated by the length of these books. There's just a lot going on. So yes, I do get intimidated. I try to pick up at least one every now and then so I can chip away at this TBR. But it is hard. It's definitely hard. I want to read Priory Over the Orange Tree. I don't think I will read the physical book. I think I'll listen to the audiobook. But we'll just see. And I am a little bit intimidated to read Jade War. Just because it's technically longer than Jade City, and I read some reviews and it just said stuff happens, but there's not as much action as the first one. So I'm just kind of going into it like, I might get a little bit bored. I'm still really interested in the families. Like, the plot of what's going on is interesting, but apparently there's not going to be a lot of clashing like we saw in the first book. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I am a little intimidated with that book. It is what it is. 7, which book have you actually read in one day or super quickly? So the first one was Secret Santa. I read this in one day. I read this while I was at work. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a really short book. It's like barely over 200 pages long. It was really interesting. I think it was fast paced, and I just thought the story was really fun. So this is a book I started in the morning, not sure what time, but I finished it right before I got home from work. So probably at 8 o'clock at night. And that was just like, I could not put this one down. It was really, really good. I would recommend it. And the next one I would recommend was Parasite by Darcy Coates. Now this one is longer, but it's broken up into several different parts, and you're following a cast of different people on different planets that are being taken over by aliens. And it was really the first like opening chapter scared the crap out of me, and I'm not counting that day because I read it like super late at night. I was in the middle of like barely falling asleep, but then I had a nightmare, so I started it over again. But this book was really, really good, and it was so hard to put down. And I finished this basically probably, I think I finished this in 2 days. It was so easy to get through, and in my personal opinion, the way that Darcy Coates writes, it's so easy to just keep going. The way she ends chapters, you really want to keep turning the page. Like, every chapter kind of ends in a way, you could even kind of say it was like a mini cliffhanger. If you've read Darcy Coates, tell me if you agree. But that's how it feels sometimes, especially when I read The Caro Haunt. It was like, I gotta know what's going on. Question 8. which book genre takes you the longest to read? And like I said earlier, at this point in my life, adult fantasy is taking me the longest to get through. Now, it depends on the book. I have gone through the Women's War series really, really quickly. I really, really liked that adult fantasy series. But, you know, I think it has a good mix of, like, it's plot driven, it's character driven, you know, you've got political stuff going on, you've got magic, but to me, I found it very easy to just like keep reading. I didn't feel like I got bogged down with learning about the politics or learning about the magic or focusing on this one character, like for some other adult fantasy novels that I've read. But, you know, the Lightbringer series that's behind me, there are so many point of views in that series. There's so much going on, and we're learning about the world and all these other things, and it's hard to follow. It can be so hard to get through these books because each book gets longer and longer. And like I said, the final book is over 1,000 pages. And even though he does a really good job of summing everything up at the beginning of the book, I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So at this point, it's adult fantasy for me. Question 9, what book do you regret reading because you spent so much time with it for so little payoff? I would definitely say oh man, what was that series called? Damn. It's by J. Kristoff, and it's with the character Mia. What's that damn book called? Nevernight. The Nevernight series. When I first picked that one up, I put it down quite a few times. Then I got through it because I didn't read the footnotes, which was throwing me off. And I think like a lot of people would agree for the most part. Like if you watch booktube, like people are like, I don't really get this. So that took me a long time to finish. The second book, I remember finishing it pretty quickly, but it wasn't the best thing I've ever read. And then the third book, I mean, I just DNF'd it. I couldn't take it anymore. There was like a few parts that were going on that I found funny or interesting. Her mentor finds a book, and, you know, if you've read it, you know, like that was like, oh, haha, that's kind of funny. But it was just so boring. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't like reading little kids. When, you know, you're dealing with the brother situation, oh my God, such a brat. Granted, he's just a brat in general, but he's a kid and he's annoying. But then, of course, like everything that happened with J. Kristoff, I don't want to read those books anymore. So not only did I totally lose interest in the series, I've lost interest in him. So even the books that I liked that he wrote, which was the Illuminae Files, I don't even know about that anymore. But definitely Nevernight. Didn't like it. Definitely feel like I kind of wasted my time and money because I got the hardback covers. But yeah, I kind of regret that because I shouldn't have bought the third book. I probably should have just gotten it from the library because at that point, I don't even think I really liked the series, honestly. I feel like I had to push myself through the first book. The second book was a little bit better, but still not that great. Question 10, recommend fellow slow readers a book. So, like I mentioned earlier, I would definitely recommend the Women's War trilogy. I'm sorry, and I will be doing a video about all 3 of the books in the series eventually. I just gotta collect these dots. But I just love this book and I love this series. This book in particular, it's my favorite one. I just loved it. It got me out of a reading slump. I couldn't recommend it any more than I've done, like, since I fucking read it last year. So I love this one. Also, again, if you've been here for a while, you know that I really like memoirs, and I really loved You Can't Touch My Hair by Phoebe Robinson. Now this one was a little bit, it's a little bit hard because this came out right after the 2016 election, you know, between Hillary and her. So there were a few moments where, you know, we're on the same page of we assumed someone was going to win and they did not. So technically this was a fantastic book, and it got me out of the very low place I was after the election, because for that week it was, I don't know what the fuck. Like I was so low energy. it was bad, but it was such a funny book. I recommend it. And, you know, just to switch it up, give you a little bit more genre going on, I would say The Hating Game. I really liked that romance novel. I thought it had a good mix of like sexy sauciness, funny moments. I liked the little like romance that was going on. So I'd also recommend The Hating Game because I got through it really quickly. I think it's a book that you could get through really quickly, to be honest. And that's it. That is the Slow Reader's book tag. So I don't necessarily like have to tag anybody to do this as one of the questions, but please do it. On Michaela's video, they also said, please tag them, let them know on Twitter and everything when you've done the video. But I really would like to see what's just reading. And Lucy would say probably also a couple books, and I'll tag some more people down below that I would love to see how they would answer these questions, but like no pressure, you don't have to do it. But anybody who does want to do it, please do it. So yeah, with that being said, if you like the video, please like the video. If you like the video, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. And with that being said, have a good day. Goodbye.